And all of the issues that I've had on my new motorcycle has come down to one simple issue that's since been fixed. That's what I'm going to tell you today as I give you an update on my 2024 Road Glide. I did a separate video talking about all of those issues, and I'll give you a little bit of a rundown here, but I really want to get to the resolution for this specific issue because, a lot of people reached out when I made that video a few weeks ago, and, a lot of y'all are worried about either your own bike or you're worried about buying a new 2024, and I want to make sure that I clear this stuff up and be fair to the motorcycle and the things that transpired, but I also am going to be transparent with y'all as well because that's what I do. So being fair across the board is my only way. That's the only way I know how to be, and that's how I will be in this video as well. So no matter if things are going right or things are going wrong, you're gonna hear about those things, and it's honestly just like every review I do or comparison. Pros and cons. Not everything is going to work out, especially when you have a new model year. I expect growing pains, but this one, y'all, is just, it came down to something so simple that it's almost kind of maddening, and it's honestly kind of the first thing we thought that would have fixed the issue. So I'll get into all that. If you like the type of reviews that I do here, including honest motorcycle reviews, updates on the new 2024 Road Glide, parts installs, all kinds of stuff, make sure you subscribe right here, turn your notifications on, and if you want to join the Shot Squad and gain access to some pretty cool perks and support our channel as well, you can join here or on Patreon. Let's go and get into it. Now, my first experience with the 24 Road Glide started out in Las Vegas at the press ride. Now, we had, 14 to 16 motorcycles between the street and the Road Glide, and all of them ran fine. Now, the reason I bring that up is because some people in the original video said, hey, well, Harley isn't going to send a bunch of bikes out that aren't going to work. And while I understand what you're saying, if these bikes were truly flawed from the factory, that's not something that they would easily be able to control because, if there was, just these wild issues going on and it was super random, then one of those bikes, I'm sure, would have had that issue. And another thing, I'm kind of plugged in with a lot of these guys, and a lot of the creators that went out there bought new motorcycles, and nobody has had the same issues that I've had, at least the people that I've seen. And of course, I don't watch every single YouTube channel, but the people that I've talked to since Vegas, nobody's had these issues. So that's a good thing. That's not a bad thing. And this is not like, the way I wanted all of this to go when I, go out to Las Vegas, I ride these awesome bikes. I'm like, dude, I really love them. And then I go through all of the crap of trading in and upgrading, and then all of a sudden have a bike that doesn't work. I would have much rather none of this happen, but at the same time, it did. So my experience out there was nothing short of fantastic. And unfortunately, it was just this one thing that caused all of the issues with my motorcycles. And again, it's just super, super simple. So you may be saying, well, what are the issues? Well, sometimes the lights would be flickering and going crazy. Sometimes the fuel pump would come on. Sometimes it wouldn't. Sometimes the bike would start up. Sometimes it wouldn't. Sometimes when the bike did start up, it would shut right back off. Other times the bike would start up and it acted like it was running on one cylinder, smoking, boom, shut off. There was a couple of times, actually 2 times, where lights came on in my dash, my ABS and my traction control, and then the check engine light would come on after that. But really, that no start issue is the very first thing, and it always seemed like the very first symptom that I would have. So I'd try to reset the system and boom, do all of that. So the bike ended up back at the dealership 4 times for this specific issue, and that's one area where these problems started. So when we look at Harley Davidson, we have to separate corporate from the dealership level. Even though the dealership has, the rights to use the bar and shield, and I'm sure they pay royalties and all of this kind of stuff, that doesn't mean that corporate oversees those guys. Now, I'm sure there's standards that have to be kept for sure, but it's just the unfortunate truth. Sometimes you're going to walk into a Harley dealer and have the best experience of your life. Other times, it's not going to be like that. Now, almost feel like a broken record talking about dealer experience in my area, so I'll just break it down to this. There were missed opportunities, especially the second time when I brought it up to the dealer. One of the guys seen what was going on with the bike. It would kind of start up and then the starter motor would just keep kicking over and then it would eventually just shut off. When he saw that, he knew there was an issue and I knew there was an issue, and yet after they looked at it for a couple of days, I think they called tech services too, it just kind of all went, to hell from there, because they're like, hey, I don't see any kind of issue here. We're just going to release the bike back to you. And that's the biggest thing, man. It's just missed opportunities and misdiagnosis a couple of times that really led to this extended period of time of being without my motorcycle and the frustration of constantly having to take it back and forth. Again, if you want to know the entire story, I'm going to let that video speak for itself, and you can come back to this one if you want to or whatever, but not going to go through everything. The whole point was, after we got it to the dealership a couple of times, checked the battery again, went through a couple of things, nothing. Those first two times, really, in my opinion, were a missed opportunity. Again, we're talking about a brand new motorcycle. I understand that. So I want people to understand that I understand that, yes, there's new things going on with the bikes. Not everybody understands them yet, and some of the issues that can arise. And sometimes it takes issues like mine in order for these guys to, be able to diagnose and see what's going on. But those first two times, I believe, were crucial. And then the third time, they came up with a BCM. So they took my BCM out, put it in another bike. That bike started having issues, and then they put a fresh one in mine. Boom, everything started working. At that point, corporate paid for my 1K service, which was awesome, man. I felt like that fairly compensated me with all of the additional trips I had to make back and forth to the dealership and setting up rides. And then the fourth time. So I actually took it down to Daytona, started up a couple of days in a row, and I was like, man, if I can start this thing 3 days in a row, I think we got it. And I think it did start up 3 days in a row. It was the fourth day in a row where it did not start once I came back from Daytona. And that's where they found the battery issue. So they actually had a tech from Milwaukee fly down the third time and the fourth time to my local dealer. And on that fourth time, they swapped the battery out. And lo and behold, it's been a couple of weeks and my bike has ran fantastic. No starting issues whatsoever. And I'm super proud to report that. By the way, we know kind of where the issue stemmed from as well. Now you may be thinking, how do you know the bike is good after a couple of weeks? Well, since I've had this motorcycle, which was early February, I've never had it for more than a couple of days without it having some kind of an issue. I don't think it ever started more than 3 days in a row. And so what I do, even if I'm not riding it, I'll go downstairs, up the garage, start it up, make sure everything's good. Okay, we're good. I'll start it up a couple of times. Actually took the training course with Robert at Be the Boss of Your Motorcycle, and there's a lot of stop and starts there. Did it multiple times, dozens of times, and everything has worked perfectly fine. No flickering, no smoking, no running on one cylinder, none of the crazy things that were going on with this motorcycle. Now here's how simple all of this could have been avoided. And again, this is just a theory because none of us really know, but what we do know is that the battery is most likely the culprit for all of this. Now you may be thinking, well, yeah, BCM is going to make everything act erratic because that's controlling all of your electronics, and that's true. But if the BCM isn't getting the correct voltage from the battery, then that can cause it to be faulty as well. Now the opposite is true as well. If the BCM is faulty, then it could be draining on the battery and sending signals to accessories or to things that it shouldn't be, or at the wrong times, or when the bike is off, or any number of things. So both of those things can be true. And I don't know that we can definitively say that 100% it was the battery, but I would probably put money on it. I'm fairly certain that's what it was, and I believe that the battery is what caused the BCM issue, or the BCM to eventually fail. The thought is that when it got transported up here from Orlando, that it was never put into transport mode. And so if that's the case, and again, I don't know, but if that's the case, then the battery is drawing the entire time. Security system's going off, the lights are all flashing for over 5 hours. Now, once you get those batteries under, I think it's 10.5 volts, there is a chance that they can come back, but will they ever fully come back? I don't really know. AGM batteries are a little bit different in that way. But one of the craziest things about this is that I was able to start the bike that day and put 30 miles on it. It was the following day when I had the very first issue. So the second day of me owning the bike. And of course, it's just kind of theorizing what actually happened, what caused all of this issue in the first place. And not only is it a matter of a battery or BCM that caused this, or even the lack of being put into transport mode, but then just the ball getting dropped, along the way. It's just a really unfortunate circumstance. But one thing about it is I tried to be fair across the board, and I think I was. I think I was more than fair when it came down to all of this, because I was fair to y'all. I think I was fair to Harley, and I also made sure I kept it real during this whole thing too, and talked about some of the issues that I was having. Now, if I was in a different area with different dealers, would this have gone down a different way? Maybe. It's very possible. It's just one of those things. I've been very hard on these specific dealers, even though I haven't called them out by name. Some of y'all know exactly who they are, and that's fine with me. But at the same time, on a corporate level, I think Harley did everything they could to help me out and compensated me at the same time. So it is, like I said, I separate those two entities now more than ever, because never before did I really ever have to deal with corporate Harley, and now I see the very distinct difference there. I made sure everybody kind of knew my position on all of this, from a dealer to a corporate level, and I think on the corporate level I got the most amount of help. And that's why I say, if you have any kind of issues with your motorcycle, call into corporate and let them know what's going on. Get them involved, because if you can't get help at the dealer level, corporate will step in and make sure things get done right for you. Now, I've had people ask me, man, do you regret buying that motorcycle? Or, would you buy again? Would you recommend the bike? And my answer to that is absolutely. I think, like I said from the very beginning, I had no intentions on buying a new motorcycle this year. But when I rode them out in Vegas, I was sold, and I still am. But now, fortunately, I'm getting the opportunity to finally get to know my motorcycle, and that will connect me on even a deeper level. So yes, I do. If you're trying to get one of these, I think the advancements and everything they've put into the bike is one of the biggest leaps and bounds that Harley has made since especially the Rushmore project. So definitely don't regret buying it. I think it's an awesome motorcycle. But again, kind of seeing this from the big picture, it all came down to just a simple freaking issue, and that's the way I'm seeing it. The bike's running super strong, and so that's where I'm at with it. It's no regrets here at all. So there you go. Big thanks to you guys for watching. Again, if you like what I do, consider subscribing, and if you want to support what I do, you can do that on Patreon and gain access to some pretty cool perks. See y'all on the next one, and as always, hold 'em down.